everyone, welcome back to What the H Are You Reading for the month of June 2021. It's another 5 Wednesday month, so we've got 5 new comics to do quickie reviews of for this month. We're going to start with week 1 and Black Cat number 7. Okay, I know I just reviewed issue 4 a few months back, but that was kind of a one-off interrupting the main story. This is the conclusion of the mega plot that's been running through the first and second volume of Jed MacKay's Black Cat title. Essentially, Felicia's mentor, the Black Fox, made a deal using all the superhero swag he had the Black Cat steal. In return for immortality for him and Felicia, he sells Manhattan Island and all of its inhabitants to a god known as the Gilded Saint, who's also the patron saint of the Thieves Guild, run by Felicia's flirtatious arch-rival Odessa Drake. Now, Felicia has to work with Drake to figure out a way to rescue everyone from the island, even if it means taking out her mentor. This issue is actually very low-key. It's just a sit-down conversation between the Cat and Fox where she recounts how she traveled to the mystic vaults of the Gilded Saint in order to try and undo the Fox's deal. And while there is some action like how she got into the vaults, it's mostly a psychological issue as it explores Felicia's disappointment with the Fox and the reasons why he made this deal and betrayed Felicia, but at the same time protected her with this immortality. Ultimately, the deal is undone, but there's no love lost between mentor and protege, and though her heart might be a little broken, Felicia also makes peace with Odessa, who she had to work with to save the day, and by the end of the issue, she's putting the bi back in bisexual superhero. Anyway, the art by Michael Dowling is gorgeous in a very underrated sort of way. He reminds me of Phil Noto or a more subdued Kevin Maguire. He's very good with expressions, but draws solid, realistic bodies for superheroes. Black Cat is well known for being one of Marvel's sexiest superheroines, but Dowling gives her a very realistic body type. She's not all ridiculous curves and black leather. She's got a very pretty face on an athletic frame. But he draws the Gilded Saint as this larger-than-life skeleton monster, and he handles the gold-filled vaults and the New York cityscapes with a professional touch. This book looks really good. And as I said, this is a very underrated story. It's mostly just Felicia talking to her mentor on a park bench. I like how that after more than a dozen issues across 2 volumes of high-tech thievery, ripping off superheroes, and larger-than-life, over-the-top situations, the story's main plot is resolved by 2 people sitting down and talking. It's not what I expected from this book, but it's kind of tone perfect for the emotions involved. I'm very interested to see where Jed MacKay takes the Black Cat going forward, and in my opinion, the Black Cat is one of Marvel's best ongoing monthly titles. Now for week 2 we have Strange Academy number 11. Now you might remember ways back on Comic Book Issues I did review the first 2 issues of this Magic Academy set in the Marvel Universe title. My big complaint about those initial issues was it was all set up and world building and not enough character development or story hooks. Well, we're now on to issue 11, and these story hooks are aplenty. There's ongoing issues like the love triangle between Emily, Doyle, and Eric, Zoe's true nature as a zombie, and oh yeah, last issue someone killed the silent crystalline student Toth, shattering him into a million pieces. This issue starts with a flashback showing how Toth was destroyed by something with all these black tendrils, and then picks up with Toth's parents arriving, one of whom is Man-Thing? And they, along with Dr. Voodoo, Shaylee, Toth's fairy girlfriend, and a talking cat from his home dimension in Weird World, try to physically reassemble him. But when his heart shard is found to be missing, it's time to call in the big guns. The best detective money can buy, Howard the Duck. Howard goes on to interrogate the students, trying to place them at the time of the, let's say, wounding, eventually finding a clue that leads them to the culprit and a confrontation with the Shatterer's darker nature, ending in a next-issue cliffhanger. Scotty Young's story is pretty focused for this issue, about a third being centered on Toth's parents and his reassembly, with the back 2/3 being about Howard's investigation and the revelation of whodunit. Now again, this is a high school book, and a lot of the characters are just kind of stereotypes. There's the chubby kid, there's the nerd, there's the bully, there's the kid being bullied, there's the popular girl, there's the girl who's in love. I mean, they're all kind of shallow stereotypes. And he never does too much building of guest star characters like Howard. Howard's just there to do a job. But still, it's a fun story, and it's very focused on what it's trying to tell the reader. The art by Humberto Ramos is a lot of fun, as I've said in the past. He handles the actions and monsters in this book very well. If you haven't tried Strange Academy, I do recommend starting from issue 1. Of course, there's not a ton of backstory since it's still a fairly new book, so if you want to dive right into the current issue you'll find on the newsstands, I don't think you'll have too much trouble picking up the threads. For week 3, it's Planetsized XMen. So the X-Men's Hellfire Gala was basically a single-issue crossover event going through all the Marvel X-Men titles that gave Marvel a chance to show up a lot of funky mutant fashion ideas to the mainstream media. There was also a seemingly big event ending the gala, which we didn't find out in the issues prior to Planetsized X-Men. We just see that a lot of the human and superhero guests ended up leaving miffed. But we don't find out what Emma Frost's big announcement was until this standalone special written by the upcoming X-Men writer Gary Dugan and drawn by Pepe Larraz. And what is that announcement? The X-Men have colonized Mars. Hear me out. After the X of Sword events, they were left with a brand new second mutant nation called Arakko, full of mutants from an alternate dimension who had no real idea how to live on Earth peacefully with humans. So, some of the more powerful alpha-level mutants like Magneto, Vulcan, Marvel Girl, and Iceman changed the composition of the planet's core, its atmosphere, and even, thanks to Bobby, adding water to the planet. We're then treated to some flashbacks of Magneto assembling this team to pull off this phenomenal feat of planetary terraforming, before we cut back to the present where Storm and Psylocke's reality-warping brother add weather and even a space station to monitor the planet. The Arakko mutants will now live on Mars, with various embassies set up for the visiting alien powers that come to Earth. Conceptually, it's an impressive idea, but that said, you're paying $5 for this special, and while the art by Larraz is as good as ever, there's no real drama here. It's a play-by-play book to show how the mutant race pulls off this big, exceptional feat. Is it an important step in the evolution of the X-Men? Sure. Could it have been handled in the many, many monthly titles the X-Men currently have? Definitely. Do you need to run out and buy this book? Not really. Okay, I know this has been a very Marvel-heavy month for me, but I'm not reading a lot of the new DC. I'm trying to find stuff for you, so I apologize if this was a little too Marvel-heavy for you, but we do have one DC comic, and that's week 4, Checkmate #1. This was supposed to come out following the events of Event Leviathan during Brian Bendis' Superman and Action Comics runs. Sadly, due to COVID, the series was delayed and pushed back and is just now being released. It's a 6-issue miniseries following Lois Lane's undercover team as they try and take down Leviathan and its leader, the former superhero known as Manhunter, Mark Shaw. Damian Wayne and his evil mother, Talia al Ghul, part of Lois Lane's crew, are investigating a Leviathan ship, but when the ship is taken back by its former owners, they get accidentally taken along with it. Unfortunately, rather than a unified front, Lois' group is falling apart to infighting as they know nothing about their newest member, Mr. King. He asks for their trust, but gives up nothing on himself. Later, Lois is working at the Daily Bugle when she's approached by a longtime employee who turns out to be a Leviathan plant, and we see that she's being watched by a sniper. Now, this comic is by the Event Leviathan team of Brian Bendis and Alex Maleev, and it has that espionage feel to it, certainly, but this comic has a big problem, and that problem is, I just don't care anymore. By this point, it feels like old business, and we've all moved on. Mark Shaw and his flying city full of spies just disappeared, and the Superman family never followed up. It's too new of an idea to feel like a nostalgic look back at the time Bendis was on the Superman books, and alternately, it's too old to be considered exciting and feel like it's a current part of what's happening in DCU. It's just kind of an anomaly. And the art by Maleev just feels off. The bodies are kind of like really stiff. The colors seem bland and a little too bright for Maleev's art, and they've obviously been digitally separated. This book just doesn't feel important, and the art is not as good as I've come to expect from Alex Maleev. So I don't know if they rushed to get this out because of the delay, but it just doesn't feel right. It feels like a book that's a year too late. Hello, my friends. For week 5, it's Star Wars The High Republic #5. Just a little flashback there. I was hoping to save the series for an actual comic book issues review, but the opening arc has been going on and will probably last another issue or two. This comic is written by British sci-fi writer Cavan Scott, and he's also writing the High Republic novels, and has fill-in art by artist George Giannetti, most famous for doing the Dark Horse Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 8 comic. Now, the High Republic is a new setting, a new initiative by Lucasfilm and/or Disney to create Star Wars stories told in a new era. Not quite the ancient Civil War feel of the Old Republic or the civilized political feel of the movie eras. The High Republic, at least as far as this book goes, has more of a Wild West feel to it, pushing out into the universe and dealing with strange new alien menaces as they settle new worlds for the Republic some 200 years before the Phantom Menace. The story follows Padawan Keeve Trennis and her one-armed Trandoshan mentor Jedi Skier. The pair serve under the Jedi Marshal Avar Kriss and are investigating a series of disappearances in a world in Hutt space. They find a sentient but invasive alien plant species called the Drenger, and soon the Jedi must team up with the Hutts to stop the Drenger from taking over the entire sector. This issue opens with Marshal Kriss and her Hutt counterpart leading an assault against the Drengir, as Keeve tries desperately to reach her mentor Skier, who has been infected by the plant creatures. They do break through and eventually trace the Drengir back to its source world and the progenitor plant controlling the army. I've really enjoyed the High Republic series, and to be clear, there are 2 comic books with this title. This is the more mature Marvel book, while IDW is putting out an all-ages version, albeit with a different story. Genji's art works well for this book as he can handle the aliens, the humans, the droids, and the rest competently. Gavan has said that he thinks this book's actually a horror story, and with this invasive alien plant species burrowing tendrils into the bodies of its victims, it's hard to disagree with that assessment. But he also captures the surrogate father-daughter bond between Kiev and Skier very well. The two clearly care for one another on a deep level. I really recommend this book. It's good for beginning Star Wars fans, especially as it has an all-new continuity that isn't bogged down with requiring you to know a ton about the movies before starting. Although a certain 700-year-old Green Jedi does cameo in the first issue. It's fun, it's scary, it's a rollicking adventure, there's a mystery to solve, there are great characters to get to know, but it's still Star Wars, so you know what you're getting into, and what more can you ask for from a Star Wars comic? Hey, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It's the best way to find out when new content comes out, or you can always join my Patreon and get to watch these videos before anyone else. Until next time, when I'll be doing quickie reviews for the month of July 2021, this is What the H Are You Reading, and I'm your host, Brian Hines.